Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DOB Now licensing release for elevator licensing training. This session, as Diego mentioned, we're going to cover the requirements for technicians, restricted technicians, excuse me, and helpers. So some of what's here Diego already went over, but I want to mention it again. You will remain muted for the extent of this training. But we do have the Q&A where you can ask any questions you want. We have a panel of experts who will be responding to your questions. If there is something they cannot answer, we're going to take that to what we call our parking lot, where we may need to do some research to get you answers, but the answers will be sent to you. So please do participate and ask questions. In addition, you will later be receiving an email asking you how the training went. Please let us know. Please do respond to that survey because we really want to make sure that our training is as valuable as possible. So we'd like to know whether we hit that goal. So let's go over what we're going to talk about in today's training. We're going to start with an overview of elevator agency licenses and an overview of elevator agencies, what the requirements are for both. We'll then talk about what the steps are to get an elevator agency license. We'll talk about how to log in. We'll mention exam fees briefly, although that doesn't really apply here. We'll talk about new license applications and what the review process is for license applications. We'll talk briefly about the business application request, although that isn't, again, an essential part of this training. We'll talk about how you actually get the license. And then we'll talk about renewal and reissuance of licenses. And we'll talk about some additional transactions in the Manage Profile and Manage License interfaces. And we'll finish up by talking about the connection to DOB Now Build and DOB Now Safety. Now I'm going to be giving the first part of this training, and then I'll be handing it over to my colleague Anthony, who will be giving the second part of this training. So this release covers elevator agency directors, co-directors, inspectors, technicians, restricted technicians, and helpers. It's the last three of these that we'll be focusing on today, but we will mention the other three as well. Currently, or until now, all elevator agency licenses were filed through DOB Now Biz Options. That has been shut down. And as of June 25th, which is actually Saturday, so this will come into effect Monday, all elevator agency license-related transactions must be submitted in DOB Now licensing. However, any elevator agency license-related transactions that were filed prior to June 25th are going to remain in Biz Options. So if you have a license transaction in process, it's going to stay there. Any new transactions on or after June 25th will be done in DOB Now licensing. So I want to make sure we're all starting on the same page. This may be review, and that's fine, but I want to make sure everyone is clear on what the different licenses are and the components of elevator agencies. So each elevator agency license has two components, both of which must be valid and active in order for the license to be active. And those are the license itself and the associated agency. Now, directors are the first license we'll be talking about. The director is the highest ranking license among all the elevator agency licenses. They're the ones that establish the agency, and then once the agency is established, other licenses will be able to associate themselves to that agency. Now, there can be only one director per agency, and the director license is valid for 3 years. The next license is co-directors. There can be more than one co-director registered under an agency. Co-directors cannot create an elevator agency within DOB Now licensing, but they can associate themselves to that agency, and the co-director license is also valid for 3 years. Inspectors, as you may know, perform inspections on elevators and related equipment. These licenses, again, need to be associated to a specific agency, and it's valid for 3 years. Then come technicians. Technicians perform general maintenance and installation of elevators and related equipment. As we've said before, this license must be attached to a specific agency, and the technician license is valid for 2 years. Restricted technicians are also known as accessibility technicians, and this license is restricted to performing work involving platform lifts, including those in private residences. The restricted technician license must be attached to a specific agency, and it's valid for 2 years. And then we come to helpers. Helpers work under the supervision of the technicians and assist or help with the maintenance or installations of elevators and related equipment. Like all the other ones we've been talking about, the helper license must be attached to a specific agency. But unlike the others, the helper license does not expire. So in order to create an agency, the director first needs to submit their license qualification application. We will refer to that as the LQA or license application. Once the LQA is approved, the system prompts the director to establish the agency that will be tied to their license. Agencies are established by submitting a business approval request, or BAR, after the license application is approved. And the process for submitting the license application and the business approval request will always be 2 separate transactions. Now, directors can create a brand new agency, or they can join an existing agency that's already been approved by DOB. The big difference is when they're filling out the BAR, if they're creating a new agency, they're going to have to provide all of the data for the fields and all of the relevant documents. But if the director is associating themselves to an existing agency, they can search for the agency by the agency number, and then they only need to edit the data fields that are changing. They can leave everything that's already in there if it still applies. Now, once the agency is approved by DOB, any subsequent updates or changes that need to be made to the agency can only be made by the associated director. In addition, agencies must have one and only one director associated with it. Without a director, an agency is considered inactive. An agency can have, but doesn't have to have, any number of the remaining elevator license types. All other elevator licenses, when they submit their LQA, they need to identify what agency they are joining, and they do it by searching by agency number. You enter your agency number and it will pull in the agency information. And I will demonstrate that to you. So let's talk a little bit about elevator agencies and what the requirements are to qualify as a valid agency. Again, this may be information you already know, but it's always good to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So just as a reminder, elevator agency directors can file new agency BARs, or they can update agency information. All other elevator agency licenses, co-directors, inspectors, technicians, restricted technicians, and helpers, all of them submit their license qualification application to become part of an existing elevator agency. Now, in order to be established as a valid agency, only one type of insurance is required, and that is general liability. The director can choose to waive either one of the other 2 insurances, workers' compensation and/or disability insurance. However, if a director does not include all 3 insurances for the agency, no other licensees can join the agency because waiving the insurance or insurances implies that the director is working by themselves. So for technicians, restricted technicians, and helpers who must join an agency, all 3 insurances must be active. And that's the first point here. All 3 insurances must be active at the time that the prospective applicant chooses the agency for all other elevator license types. Now, at the time that the license gets issued, the expiration date of the license isn't impacted by the expiration date of the insurances. So, for example, if I'm joining as a technician an agency that has all 3 insurances, technician licenses are good for 2 years. And that's going to apply no matter what the expiration date is for the insurance. It doesn't matter if the insurance expires a week from now or a year from now. So long as it's active, my license will be good for 2 years. However, if any of the insurances that are associated to an agency become expired, then every single license associated to that agency moves into a status called inactive. Agency insurance expires. Once the insurances are made active again, then the licenses will revert to their original status. So it's important that insurance information gets updated promptly. So as a summary, an agency must meet the following criteria for it to be considered active. It must have a director with an active license. It must have general liability insurance that is active. It must have workers' compensation insurance that is active, unless it's waived. And it must have disability insurance that is active, unless it's waived. So now let's talk about the process to get an elevator license. And I'm going to focus here on technicians, restricted technicians, and helpers. If you want to know more about how it works for directors, co-directors, or inspectors, there was another presentation that we did yesterday, and the recording should be up shortly. So here are the steps to get a new license for an elevator agency technician, restricted technician, or helper. The first thing they have to do is fill out the license qualification application and submit it. DOB then reviews it and, in our best case scenario, approves it. At this point, the technician, restricted technician, or helper needs to pay a fee for the license. Once that is paid, they're going to be able to print the license directly from DOB now, and we will show you how to do that. So the card issuance fee is the same for technicians, restricted technicians, and helpers, and that is $50. That's the only fee associated with these three license types. So in order to fill out the LQA, the first thing you've got to do is log into DOB Now licensing. So let's talk about how to do that. It depends on whether you have a license or not. If you do not currently have a license, you're planning to get one, you're an aspiring licensee, then what you're going to do is you're going to create a new profile for DOB Now, and then use that profile to apply for a license. What about if you already have a license? Well, there's two possibilities here. Existing licensees who already have an e-filing account as of Saturday will be able to access DOB Now licensing directly using that same email address and password as they have for their e-filing account, because we're going to automatically migrate your profile over to DOB Now. If you do not currently have an e-filing account, but you have a license, you need to create an e-filing account as soon as possible, because what we'll do is we'll migrate your profile automatically on June 25th so that you'll be connected to DOB Now licensing. In no case will existing elevator licensees need to create an account in DOB Now. The most they will have to do is create an e-filing account. So what if you do not currently have a license? Well, there's a bit of a process in order to create your login. There's a bit of a process to create the login. And I'm going to go through that process. But before I do, I want you to notice that there's a point here on the DOB Now login page where it says, register for an e-filing account here. That's where you go if you have a license and you do not currently have an e-filing account. You're going to need to go there and click to create an e-filing account. And make sure you do that as soon as possible, because we want to be able to convert those automatically for you, and that's going to happen on Saturday. Now, if you do not currently have a license, the process is a little bit different. Instead, what you're going to do is where it says click here to create a new DOB Now licensing profile. You're going to click on there, and you'll see a pop-up asking if you currently have one of these existing licenses or qualifications. We're going to say no. And what you'll do is you'll create a profile by filling out all the required fields in the Create Profile screen. Now, you can tell what fields are required because they have red asterisks next to them, and this will hold true all the way through the process, so you can always tell what's required. You will also need to check the checkbox, and when you do, a pop-up is going to show you exactly what you are attesting to. That's how you sign things electronically in DOB now, is you're going to be clicking checkboxes. But make sure you are aware of what you are attesting to. You would have to read this through and then click accept. You'll then get a confirm button to complete the process and create a new profile. Once you've done all of that, you're going to get an email that has an activation link. You see where it says click here to activate? Click the link and it will activate your account. And then you can go to the main login page and log into DOB Now, and you'll see licensing as an option. So let me show you this process. This is the main login page for DOB Now. And if you have a login, you'll fill in your email and password. But if you do not currently have a login and you want to create a new DOB Now licensing profile, you'll click where it says click here to create a new DOB Now licensing profile. It'll ask if you have these other licenses. We're going to say no. And then you need to fill out the details here. Your first name, your last name, your email. You'll put in a password and re-enter it, and then you'll click the checkbox. When I click this checkbox, I'm going to get a pop-up that gives me exactly what I am attesting to. Once I click accept, it puts my name and the date on, and I electronically sign this application. From here, I could click create. If I actually do that, it's going to tell me I didn't enter my passwords. And then it would send an email letting me click on the link to activate my profile. Now again, this process was for people who do not currently have licenses. I just want to review, what if you already have a license? Well, if you have a license and you have an e-filing login, then the DOB Now licensing module is going to be automatically added to your login. If you currently have a license and you don't have an e-filing login, make sure you sign up for an e-filing account as soon as possible, because we're going to link that account to your license, and we're going to run that process over the weekend on June 25th. Once you log in, you're going to see the modules that are available to you, and you're going to click on DOB Now Licensing. And that's going to take you into the DOB Now Licensing dashboard. So let me do that pretty quick. I'm going to do a different login here. I'm going to go ahead and log in. You see that there's 4 options here: Build, Biz Options, Safety, and Licensing. And we're going into DOB Now Licensing. And this is the DOB Now Licensing dashboard. I'll show you more of it in just a moment, but let's go back to the PowerPoint. So let's talk about how to apply for a new license, because this is the most detailed version of it if you do not currently have a license and you need to apply. Now, when I hand things over to my colleague Anthony, he's going to talk about how to renew your license if you currently have one. But I'm going to talk about how to do a new license. So, in order to create a new license application, the first thing you're going to do is click the plus new license button to begin the process. It's going to pop up asking you, what license type are you choosing? We're going to choose elevator agency because that's what this training is about. We'll click next. It then asks you your license class/class type, and you choose the appropriate one. In today's class, we're talking about technicians, restricted technicians, and helpers. So we might choose, say, technician, and click next. You'll then get the supplemental investigation questionnaire popping up. You'll see 4 questions. Every one of those questions must be answered yes in order for the submit button to become active. If any one is answered no or skipped, you will not be able to click submit. And then you'll get into the initial license application. So let me show you this. Let me delete the one that I did yesterday in yesterday's training. And we'll start a new one. So I'm going to click plus new license. I'm going to click elevator agency and next. And then I'm going to click technician and next. There's 4 questions here. If I answer any of them no, then it's not going to let me submit. I have to be of good moral character. That's the question that I answered no. So I am in fact of good moral character. I answered them all yes, and now the submit button becomes active. And we come into the general information tab. Now, it's going to put in the application type, license type, and license class/class type that I already selected. So it's a new license for an elevator agency technician. It puts in my name and email that I set up when I set up the login account. And the New York State elevator license I'll put in. Then I need to enter my house address. Now yours is not going to pop up. I just have used this for a while for training, so that's why it pops up, including the borough, the zip code, and I must put in either the home telephone number or the mobile telephone number. I don't have to put both. I need to put in my date of birth, and I want you to notice it's not going to let me choose anything that's less than 18 years ago, because you have to be 18 in order to get a license. But it will let me choose something that's older than that. I'm just going to choose a date. And then it asks you to put in your social security number or ITIN. The next thing I need to do is I need to put in the agency that I am joining. And I can search by agency number or agency name. I'm going to search by agency number. And I need to get the agency number because I did not write this down. So I have my records here. This is my agency number. So I'm just going to copy and paste it in. And then I click search. And it comes up and says, is this your agency? Yep, that's my agency. And it pulls all the information in. I could have also searched by name, but I just did it by number. And the last question on this page is whether or not I'm a city employee. I'm going to say no. At this point, I must click save. And it's going to notify me that once I save, I cannot change the application type, that it will have to be a new license application, which is good because that's what I want anyway. So I'll click save. It'll tell me the application has been saved. Now let's go back over to our PowerPoint. I filled out the address information. I filled out my date of birth, my social security number. I put in an agency number and pulled it up for me, and that I'm not a city employee. And then I clicked save. We saw the pop-ups that I couldn't change the application type, but after I saved, I went ahead and clicked save. I clicked OK on the application has been saved. And then the screen changes a little. On the left, you'll see that a license application number gets assigned. This is just going to be a number that starts with the letter L. And you'll see 4 more tabs show up. Background investigation, qualification/experience, documents, and statements and signature. And you're going to need to fill out all 4 of those fields. And we'll go through all 4 of those tabs, and I'll go through what they all are. You'll also see at the top of the page, the status bar. Now we'll talk about the status bar and the approval process a little bit later on, but we're going to focus on filling out this new license application for now. The next thing we do is we go to the background information tab. Background investigation tab. Now, one of the things you'll hear is that we always recommend that you click save before going from one tab to the other. The system's not going to keep you from doing it, but it would be really annoying if you lost the information. So clicking save more often is a good idea. So on the background investigation tab, the first thing you'll see is license history, where you need to list all licenses, certifications, or registrations that are issued to you by any city or state. At least one must be entered into this section. You'll click Add History, and you'll get this little license history pop-up where you need to enter your name, the license type, the license or certification or registration number, the current status, and the expiration date, and then you'll click Save. And the next step asks, and I will show this to you in the system in just a moment. The next step asks, do you currently have a valid driver's license? If you say yes, then you need to enter what state it's from and your driver's license number. If you say no, you don't need to enter that information because there's no information to enter. The next question after that asks, have any licenses or government-granted privileges ever been rescinded, revoked, surrendered, suspended, or disqualified? And if you say yes, you must provide details in the comments field. You then may see another two questions. Have you ever been employed by a city, state, or federal government agency? And are you related to any DOB employees, including through marriage? If you say yes, you need to explain it in the comments. If you don't need to explain it in the comments. And that's the end of that tab. So let me show this to you. We're going to go to the background investigation tab, and we see license history. I'm going to add history. So this is a license that was granted to me, and we'll call this, say, OSHA certification. I put in my number and my current status: active, expired, revoked, suspended, rescinded, or surrendered. I'm going to say it's active, and that it doesn't expire until next year. So we'll say June 2023, and today is the 23rd, so I'll say it expires on the 23rd next year. I click Save, and shows up in my license history. Continue that for every license you have. We then get, do you currently have a valid driver's license? I'm going to say no, because if I say yes, I have to enter that information. And have any licenses or privileges granted to you been revoked, or so on? If I say yes, the comments field shows up and I must fill it in. If I say no, it doesn't. Now, before I go to the next page, I'm going to click Save. The next tab is the Qualifications and Experience tab. So let's talk about that. On the Qualifications/Experience tab, there are 3 yes or no questions about convictions and fines. Whether you've ever been convicted or pled guilty to an offense anywhere, whether you owe any penalties or fines to the City of New York, and whether any company or business you've been associated with owes any fines, penalties, or fees to New York. Answer those 3 questions and you're going to be done with the tab. So let's do that. I'm going to say no to all of these. None of this applies. And I'm going to click Save before moving on to the next tab, which is the Documents tab. On the Documents tab, you're going to need to upload all required documents. What you'll do is you'll first click the plus Add Document button. And then you're going to get this Upload a Document screen where it shows you all of the potential documents. You can identify a document, enter the name, and then you're going to click Choose File to find the document on your computer. Once you've done that, you'll click Upload, completes the process for that document, and you repeat the process for each of the documents. So let's try that. I'm going to click Add Document, and I'm going to start with my photo ID, and I'm just going to call this ID. I'm going to choose a file, and I navigate to where my ID is on my computer. This is the document I use. It's a test document. And then I click Upload. And it'll tell me the document has been uploaded. And you'll notice that it shows up over here in pending status. There's also 3 buttons here. This is view, delete if I uploaded the wrong one, or re-upload. And this is that same thing. I just made it smaller so I didn't have to scroll on the PowerPoint. Repeat the process for all of the required documents. And then click Save, because we always save before moving to the next tab. The last tab is the Statements and Signature tab. And what you're going to need to do here is read through what you're attesting to, and then click to electronically sign the application. So I'm going to click Save, because I always want to save before I change to the next tab. Go to Statements and Signature and see all of what I'm attesting to, and I click to sign it. And it puts in my name and the date. And then, of course, I'm going to click Save again, because we always want to do that. In order to actually file, you need to click on the Preview to File button. Now, if you do that and you have not entered all required information, it's going to tell you that. The system is very intuitive, and it tells you if you missed something. So, for example, if I click on Preview to File, it tells me, hey, you forgot these documents. And it also gives me a red exclamation point over here where there's stuff missing. So it makes it very easy for you to do things right, because it's going to tell you what to do. Once you've done everything right and you click Preview to File, what will open is called the Application Preview window, and it's going to show you your entire application. You need to page through the application by clicking Next, and you can read through, make sure everything's correct. And on the last page, at the bottom of this window, you will see a checkbox that allows you to electronically sign the application. Click the checkbox, and then you're going to be able to click File. And you've now submitted your application. It's a pretty straightforward process. So I'm now going to hand this over to my colleague Anthony, and he's going to talk about what happens after your application goes in, what the review process is.
Hey everybody. Thank you, Martha. This is Anthony, and I'll be picking up the presentation from here. And let me just get the share going. We'll get cooking right over here and just go full screen. So I think I might be a couple of steps in. Here we go. License review process. So this is the license review process. And we're talking about the license review process again today for elevator technicians, elevator helpers, and elevator restricted technicians. And they contain the following steps. First, we have our pre-filing. Then we have pending QA review. Then we have approved license issuance pending. And then the license card gets issued. Now, getting the license. Once the license qualification application is approved, the applicant will receive an email notifying them of that fact. This is a screenshot of what that approval looks like. Like I said, it gets emailed to them. And then they have the opportunity to come over here and complete the process. So the application status will be approval letter sent. And what we have to do is double click on the license details on the dashboard to open up the application in order to make the payment. So once we double click on this guy right here, we'll see that we have a fee due. And then we'll be able to just go and begin paying that. Yeah, we'll pay that. Once we pay the fee, you'll see that we can now come over here and click to print the license card. And this is what the license card will look like. Typically, they get folded in half and placed in a wallet or any kind of thing, so you could always have it on you. All right, let's take a look at renewing the license and changing the agency. So it's a pretty easy process. The license can be renewed. To do so, license holders will hover over the Manage My Profile button on the main DOB Now licensing dashboard and choose Manage License. This will take them to a screen where they can see any licenses that they have that are issued by DOB and choose to renew, reissue, or more. Licenses can be renewed starting 60 days before the expiration date and up to 1 year after the expiration. And we're going to go in and take a look at this in the system in just a minute. But first, let's talk about what kind of changes we could make or when we're doing the renewal. So the system is first going to ask if this is a renewal with change. So if it is indeed a renewal with change, it's going to ask us to check this box off over here because we might want to change to a different agency. If it's not, then we just click no, and then the next button will become active and we'll be able to proceed through. So you have the capability of doing it with a change or without a change. Now, very similar to what we just saw Martha doing is we're going to have to answer these questions on the supplemental investigation questionnaire. All the questions will have to be answered yes in order for the submit button to become active. Okay, the application will appear within the application type identified either as renewal with change or renewal without change. All fields in the general information tab will be auto-filled with the information from the prior license. And then we just need to click save to continue. Pop-up notification will inform the applicant that the application type cannot be changed after saving. And then all they need to do is click save in order to complete the process. After they do so, an application number will be assigned and 4 more tabs will appear on the left. We have the background investigation, the qualifications and experience, documents, and statements and signature tab. The information for the initial license application will be auto-filled. And you'll see they're going to be grayed out. You'll see the information in there, but they're gray, they're not active. And the users will be able to fill in all the new or updated information, including uploading any required documents and signing on the statements and signature tab. Okay, then they would just have to pay a fee based on what they're looking to do over here. These are the fee rates. So we could see it's $50 for a technician or restricted technician, $50 for a late fee if the license is renewed under 30 days before expiration. And once the fee has been paid, users can click save and then preview to file, review the application, and then submit. And this is the review process for a license renewal. We have, again, the pre-filing, pending a background review, the renewal is approved, and the renewed license card gets issued. Okay, let's take a look at that inside of the system. I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to log into license that I have set up. Okay, so here's the license. And what I want to do is just head up here and go to Manage License. And that'll call up this window right here. Now you see we could just head over here and click Renew, which is what I'm going to do. And now it's going to ask me if I want to renew with a change. If I click yes, I'll be able to do all of these things. Now, you may not see all of these capabilities because this is set up for a director, but we could just change over here to update agency information. Or if we wanted to do all of these things, we could, but realistically, update agency information would be what we want to choose here. So I'm going to click next. Here's the supplemental questionnaire. And some may argue this with me, but I think I am of good moral character. Okay, and like I said before, we have the renewal with change. Okay, and update information agency over here. And you can see all these fields are grayed out, but down here, so where's my update agency? Where'd you go? All we have to do is click save now. Below information can be changed. So this is where we would start to begin to change that information on the background investigation. Maybe we need to add history, qualifications and experience. Maybe we have additional qualifications. We would then have to add some of those documents that Martha demonstrated before. And then we have statements and signatures. And over here, we have the agency information. Okay. So over here, do we want to change the agency number or the agency name? So depending on what we do, you can see that the field gets switched over here to agency name or agency number. Now, get where Martha had. Martha, could you just read me that agency number that you had there real quick? I'm sorry to bother you for this. I should have had it queued up,
No
but I can.
problem.
Thank you.
I'll just give you the number. Hold on.
Martha's always got my back. She's the best. I had it queued up and then I overzealously cleaned my desktop to prepare for the class. So
The number is 55771.
thank you so much. Okay, so there's the agency number. I'm going to head over here and click save or search to add, and it updates that information. Now, maybe I need to update some of this additional information over here. Maybe it's got a different address, different phone numbers, different business type. Okay, and then everything else over here. Do we have workers' compensation? So we're going to need to check these guys off. Now,
Anthony,
if I,
remember that only the director can change the information about the agency.
that's correct. Sorry. All right, so let me just leave this over here. Got yesterday's class confused. Okay, and then over here, we would just click save. As well as preview to file. Now, I'm not going to hit the preview to file part because I'm going to want to use this again for another class. So once we hit the preview to file, then it goes through and then we would be able to see it go through all of these steps over here. Okay, the pending background review, pending QA review, the renewal approved, and the renewed license card gets issued. Jump back out to the dashboard, and now we could see over here that we have this renewal with change. If we want to do anything to it, I just got to scroll over here. So if I change my mind and I want to do that, I can either view it and I can see all that information and maybe update it and then hit save and then preview to file again. Or I could double click on it and do the same thing over there. And I can also, let me see if my back button works, delete it if I realized I might have messed up the application or I want to do it a different way or a different information changed or something like that. So I could always just come over here and delete it. All right, let me jump back into the presentation and we'll take a look at updating some of the license holder information next. So some of the things that we could do under the change profile menu, you'll see that we have change our password, change name, change address, or change name and address. So every once in a while, it's a good idea to change your password. Maybe, somebody on the team got married and they're changing their name. Somebody on the team moved and they're changing their address. Or somebody on the team got married and moved. So we're doing two things. So we got one-stop shopping over here with change name and address. So we'll take a look at that next. But here's what it looks like when you choose change name and address. It's going to show us the existing name. You can see we just got kind of a fake name over here. And the existing address. Now we could head over here, fill in the new name, last name, and then the house number and all of the pertinent information that we need here. Once all the information's been updated, we'll click save. And then a request number and two more tabs will appear, documents and statements and signature. So for proof, for name changes, we're going to have to provide them with a proof of name change document. And we'll go over what those are in just a second. And then we have always the statements and signature tab that we'll have to check the box in order to basically sign everything. And that's what the statements and signature tab looks like. Okay, we're going to have to pay a fee in order to do the change, and that is $50. So we can hit that pay now button, submit the information to make the payment. And then we'll click preview to file when that's all set up. So these are the steps that this will have to go through: a QA review, and then the license gets approved, or the update gets approved, and then the license card gets reissued with the new name and address on it. So let's take a look at that. So this is all very easy and intuitive, and the great thing about the system is it's always going to keep an eye out for you. So if you inadvertently forget a document, it's going to say, hey, wait, you need those documents. Or if you miss a field, it's going to say, hey, wait, you missed a field. So it's always kind of, like a little safety net there for you. So manage profile. Let's take a quick look at changing the password. It's real simple. Just punch in your old password, then the new, and then re-enter. You have some password criteria over here, so you have to make sure your new password meets the appropriate criteria. But I'm heading over here to manage profile, and I'm going to choose change name and address. That's what we did. Again, we could do one or the other, but this is both. Killing the two birds with one stone. So I could come over here. All cashed in over here. Whoops, sorry about that, guys. Shishi address over here, moving up. Manhattan, New York. And then we'll simply head over here. We'll click save. Change request has been saved. Now here are those documents and statements and signatures tabs that we just took a look at. So here's the documents tab. I could begin by adding all my documents. And we have proof of residence, and this is what they'll accept for your proof of residence: a utility bill, a lease or deed, or a typed notarized letter and bill from the person you're residing with, or just a proof of name change. So I'll just say proof of residence over here, and I'll say proof res. And now I'm going to click over here to choose my file. Got a couple of PDFs that I usually use for the demo. Hit upload, and the document's been uploaded. Now I'll head over to my statements and signature tab, simply check the box to sign the document, and now I'll click save. Now, again, I'm not going to hit the preview to file button after this because I want to keep this active for additional classes that we'll be running. But you can see up here, the progress bar is now visible, telling us where we are. If I was to hit preview to file, it would then go to pending QA review. It would be picked up, approved, and then finally the license card gets issued. And that's really all there is to that. So again, you can see they did a great job building the system. It's very intuitive and walks you through all the steps pretty much. So just got a last little bit left to cover here. Let's take a look at elevator job applications and inspections reports. So when filing job applications in DOB Now Build or inspection reports in DOB Now Safety, the system will pull information about existing elevator agency licenses from the DOB Now licensing with this release. This means, for example, when entering the details of the elevator technician who will be responsible for the elevator application, all relevant data about their license will be automatically pulled over from their entry in DOB Now licensing. Now, again, that's why when I did those steps, some of those fields were grayed out. It was pulling them in. And the last bullet really says it. It's really vital that all the license holders keep their information up to date in DOB Now licensing. This will make sure that their job applications and inspection reports will always have the correct data, so they won't run into any problems or anything like that. Okay, that's really the end of it for this. So if anybody has questions, again, we have some of our experts on the call that'll be more than happy to answer. And if there's anything that we can't answer, we'll write them down and we'll get back to you guys with answers in a jiffy. So, question away.